Hey fellow bibliophiles, this is Sophia from Loves Literature and I'm back with another video. Today's video is going to be my annotating style and I am super excited for all of that. So let's jump into it. Right there on top of the moon, in this video, I am going to start off with showing you my annotation supplies, and then we will go through what exactly all of my different colored tabs actually mean, and then we are going to go through a couple of books from each phase of my annotating. So the beginning of my annotating, kind of the middle, and then where my annotating is now. So to start off with my annotation supplies, we're going to talk about pens. So I just use any black pen that I can find. I prefer that they have like a very fine point on them. This one has a 0.7 point and this one has a 0.5. I don't really care what brand of pen it is, as long as it's not something that bleeds through a little too much. So this is a Sharpie and I would only use this on thicker pages, and my Pilot G2 I would use on more thinner pages. But yeah, I just like to use black. I did used to use the colored pens that matched the color of tabs, so each tab had a corresponding color, but that was really killing a lot of my colorful pens, so I decided to just go with my black because I've got a lot of black pens just lying around the house. So yes, these are the first thing I always have. And then the next thing are tabs, and I just get my tabs from Amazon. I like to order from Amazon because they usually send quite a lot of tabs in one package and it's not super expensive. And honestly, I really like the bright and colorful tabs because I love finishing a book and then going back and seeing all of those colors in there. And I also like it because some of the brighter colors like the green or the yellow actually glow in the dark, which is really cool to see. So these are the tabs I get. They just come in a bunch of colors. This is kind of used, and they also come in a lot of like different end designs. So we've got these like squiggles, and then these ones are round, and more squiggles, and then we've got arrows as well. And I do have ones that also come in just like this normal straight edge, but I think I used all of those already. So yes, I love all of these colors. They're so bright and pretty, but my favorites are probably the pastel pink and purple down here, and they just go so well. I love them. And these tabs are very see-through. Probably can't tell, but yes, they're not super high quality because again, I get them for really cheap and I get a lot at one time, but they really do the job, and they also just make my books way more colorful and personalized. So all right, now we're gonna get into my color coding system. I'm trying to find a full one. Here, we'll use this. Okay, so my color coding system for what each tab means is partly based on literary devices and partly based on emotions. I have kind of melded the emotions and literary devices together because my annotating style is based off of two major booktubers, Chloe Bunny and Mel Reeds. Mel Reeds focuses more heavily on literary devices when she annotates, but Chloe Bunny focuses more on emotions. And I am an emotional but also critical reader, so I thought that combining those two systems was perfect for me. So we're just gonna get into it. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 different colors. So 10 different things that I look for when I annotate. So the bright pink is love, and this could be anything that I love in the book. Quotes, characters, sentences, sentence structure, certain imagery, anything like that. It's very open category. Orange is for things I find relatable, either to me or things that actually happen out in the real world. So, for example, if I come across characters who talk about how amazing their relationship is, that's very relatable to me because I also have an amazing relationship. And then yellow is important, and so this can be important events, important moments, important details, important world building, important world details, like literally any of that. Again, a very open category. Oh, my dog's asleep, it's cute. Okay. Green is for angry, and this can be because the book made me angry and it was like supposed to, that was the reaction that it was supposed to provoke, or I am angry at the book for the author doing something that I don't like, or the characters doing something that I feel is unnecessary and it just makes me angry. I use this one quite a lot. Apparently, I get very frustrated when I read. This next one is sad, and so this is anything that I find sad. And I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. I use this a lot for character deaths, so yeah. It's always like whenever I go back through books that I've annotated, I never want to look for this one because I'm like, I don't want to be reminded of all the sad parts. Okay, so the next tab is this like medium blue tab, and that is the tab for interesting. So this is anything that I find interesting in the book, whether it leaves me questioning or whether I think an interaction between two characters is interesting. I use this a lot for in conjunction with my foreshadowing tab of like, ooh, I wonder like what's going on here. And it's kind of like the tab I use to question a lot of things in books. The next tab is this light purple, and this is the shocking or scared tab. So I decided that since I read a lot of horror, I needed a tab that could also double for moments that I thought were scary. So shocking or scary, it works. And this I used a ton when I was reading some horror. I actually have I have a horror book that I will show you where I use this a ton because of all the moments where I was a little scared or a lot scared. This pink tab is for funny, so anything that I find funny, and to be honest, I don't use it a whole lot, but I keep it there because sometimes these moments come out of the blue where I'm like, that was actually really funny. Or books that are supposed to be funny, I use it a lot there as well. This dark blue tab is for foreshadowing. So anything that I think could be foreshadowing in a book, this tab gets used. And this last one is for frustrating. So I know you might be saying, Sophia, you already have angry. Why do you have a frustrated tab as well? Well, because frustration and anger to me are two different emotions. And a lot of the time I get way more frustrated than I do angry. So I have this tab. And I like that it's red because to me frustration is just like, I feel like it would be associated with the color red. And I use this one a lot too because there's supposed to be moments in books where you are genuinely frustrated. And I have used this a lot. I'm not afraid to say that. All right, so yes, those are what all of my tabs mean. Now I know I said that I use a mix of literary devices and emotions, but I only have a foreshadowing tab. That's like the only literary device tab. Well, a lot of my other tabs I do use to point out literary devices or more critical thinking things while I am reading the book. So just because they're associated with an emotion doesn't mean I don't use them to point out literary devices like imagery or metaphors or things like that. Okay, so now we're going to move into the more exciting parts of the video, and that is walking through how my annotation style has changed. So to show you the beginning of what my annotation style looked like, I have two books. These are both nonfiction. I read them for a college class. And this one is called Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Coleman. And this one is Blink by Malcolm Gladwell. These are both books about the brain and EQ and things like that. So you may notice these tabs don't look quite as the same as these ones. This is because they are very different. They have the clear end to them, and as you can see, there's no writing. That's because when my annotation style first started, I was only using about 5 colors, and I wasn't writing anything. I was just marking points that I thought were interesting. And I also did use sticky notes at one point to write down my thoughts. I do not do that anymore. I might take that up again when I can figure out what markers work on my clear sticky notes. And then in Daniel Coleman, you'll note in the Emotional Intelligence book, you'll notice that this one is very annotated, but it's the same thing. Or maybe not. This one I did evolve a little bit. So here you can see I did start writing in the books, but I'm still using the same tabs, and I am still using sticky notes at this point. Right there. So yes, that was how my annotation style started. Just 5 simple colors and different tabs than what I use now. These are way better quality than these. And I was using sticky notes as well, and I wasn't really writing in my books. And by the way, I highly recommend reading both of these. That's coming from someone who doesn't normally read nonfiction. These are both amazing, and this one will teach you so much about how important emotional intelligence really is. And okay, now we're gonna jump into my annotating style kind of in the middle phase. So to do that, we're gonna look at the Memory Place by Yoko Ogawa. I highly recommend this. It's very Orwellian though, so if you're not into that, you might have a hard time. I found this book very sad as well and very tragic, and it's a very good metaphor for like when the government starts restricting things, like people lose who they are. And so as you can see, we are now using these tabs. Oops. And I have started writing with colored markers. And however, you may notice I am not putting that many tabs in one book. And my preferred method of marking is underlining. How I do that is I just take the ruler side and hold it down to the page. This does mean that this side gets very dirty, but none of that usually gets on the page, it gets on my fingers. So there's another example. All right, we're gonna move on to the next book in my middle phase, and that is Into the Drowning Deep by Amira Grant. I'm sure no one's surprised that this is here. And as you can see, this book does have more tabs in it at this point. And I did do this thing for a little bit of a cast of characters, but I do not do that anymore. I don't know why I don't do that anymore. I just stopped doing it. And you can see I've already started the book with an annotation. This one was one of my favorite books to annotate simply because of all of the science in it. And I did start using black in here to just talk about anything that my color system didn't really catch. I will read this quote to you so you can kind of understand what I mean about using black. Daniel Butcher believed in roughing it, but he was still a star, and stars didn't get fish guts on their hands unless there was a camera rolling to capture the rugged masculinity of the moment. And I wrote, cue eye roll. I can just tell this guy's an asshole. So that was kind of like how I let my personality come out a little bit when I was annotating, and I really started underlining bigger sections of text as well. But you can see there's still not a ton of tabs in here by any means. So there's an entire section I underlined. Yes, this was absolutely one of my most favorite books to annotate, and I can't wait to reread it with the annotations, and just be like, oh, okay. All right, now we're gonna move on to the last phase of my annotating style, or where it is currently. And I have 3 books to help me with that. Feed by Mira Grant, Stolen Tongues by Felix Blackwell, and Meddling Kids by Edgar Cantero. This book is my favorite retelling. It's an adult Scooby-Doo retelling. This is my favorite zombie apocalypse book, and this is my favorite horror book. So all 3 of these were my most absolute top 5 favorite books to ever annotate. And I also gave all of them a 5 stars, coincidentally. So in this, you will see that I use way more tabs. I do use sticky notes, which I guess that just depends on the book, but honestly, I feel like my annotations and my storygraph entries are enough for me to not need sticky notes. So my sticky notes have now evolved into me writing storygraph entries every time I mark a X amount of pages read. And I use way more tabs. So I think in each of these books have over 100 tabs in them, which is a lot. We're gonna start with Stolen Tongues. This book was so scary, and I don't know if you can quite see it, but I have quite a few purple tabs in here, and this book was so good. But as you can see, this was where I really started like annotating. There's 3 tabs on one page at this point. And I guess you could call it going overboard, but I love it. There's another page with 2 tabs. And yeah, just because when I read, there's actually so much that I mentioned that I wasn't really marking previously. And so in my final phase, I started really giving myself permission to just annotate the crap out of any book I wanted to. And here is an example of a sticky note. I highly recommend this. It does get a little repetitive at the end, but that wasn't enough to curb my enjoyment or my rating. And this was a story that was originally on Reddit's No Sleep, so you know it's good if it's on there. Okay, the next book we're gonna do is Feed, and this one, you can tell, has a lot. So there was a ton of world building in this book, and I really needed to mark that. You can see I actually ended up going through an entire pack, and I had to start a new one by the differing of the ends. And basically this, I just used a whole lot of tabs for. And there was a lot of anger and frustrating tabs in here. So that was not fun. This was a very frustrating book to read, and this was a very sad book to read, especially at the end. The end really got me. It got me good. I didn't think she would go there, because most authors don't go there, and then she did, and I couldn't handle it. But if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm trying really hard not to spoil it. So just go read the book, please, and then you'll know what I'm talking about. Here's another sticky note, and I am still using my colored markers. I have not yet switched to the black. The black was super recent, and I don't annotate every book I read, so that is just a very recent change. I do like how colorful the colored markers make it, but the black is just more feasible. And then I don't have to carry around a ton of pens either when I'm traveling and I want to annotate a book. And the last book that we're going to talk about is Meddling Kids. This is one of my favorite colors too. It glows in the dark, so... Now this one, these are super thin pages, so there's quite a bit of bleeding through. But again, let me see if I can find a good page. Okay, here's like 4 tabs. And yes, here's, oh yeah, this is a section I annotated so much of. And then, where's my sticky notes? So I was putting my sticky notes every 50 or 100 pages, just depending on the book. A book of this size, it was every 50 or every 100, and a book of this size, it was every 50. These were just a way for me to sum up what I was thinking. And yeah, you can see I was working through what markers matched the tabs and all that good stuff. And yeah, okay, so that is my annotating style, all the supplies I use, what my color tabs mean, and the phases of my style. I am so happy that I finally filmed this video. Thank you to Amira for asking for it. I filmed this a lot for her. And if it wasn't the best, or if my style changes more, I may film another video, but we will see. I've recently gotten into digital bullet journaling, and so my reading journal is now on my iPad. And if you ever want me to do a flip through of that, just let me know. That might have to wait for a little bit though, because I just recently bought that, so I'm still filling things out. And yeah, I can also go through my teaching planner with you guys. I think that'd be a lot of fun. So thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below with what book you want to annotate the most this year, or would consider annotating this year. I can't wait to catch you in the next one. Bye!
I think it's hard how we always wait another day.